Round three. The media has to resort to tricks to get you to try to make money. So they do purposely ambiguous headlines. Look at number 8, letter A. You see this is a screenshot where you have no one knew his talent till his last day in the army, and you click on it and you get to see his talent. Or the one in the upper left corner, they set up a camera in the forest and captured the most incredible scene ever. That's a pretty big statement. Most incredible scene ever. So click on that and see if you agree that that really is the most incredible scene ever. Of course, this is so pause me for that. Of course, this is called clickbait. I assume you've heard of clickbait, where they have headlines that psychologically you just can't resist. You have to know the answer. You have to see the video. They've got you, and you click on it. And that's a pretty powerful way of forcing people to click. And of course, news organizations online get money by number of clicks and how long you stay on their site. That's why Facebook is worth so much money, the length of time people stay on Facebook. Or they force you to click multiple times. BuzzFeed, that was how BuzzFeed really ramped up its viewership by making you have to, every story, it was a slideshow and you had to click and click and click and click just to read the story, and every click you made was more money for BuzzFeed because they could pop up another ad every time. But people hated doing that, and you don't see those kind of slideshows very much. So now they're all on one page. This is, you got to pause me for this. This is the BuzzFeed story of why I forget. It's about college, about life in college, and you're just it's pretty darn awesome. So pause me and go ahead and read the slideshow. Pretty accurate, wouldn't you say? It's funny, but then it makes you want to cry. I know. Or they another thing they'll do is they'll couch paid content. If you look at letter C, you'll see that U.S. News story. This is from NBC, and you look at the little green sponsored boxes. Maybe you know that means it's an ad, that this isn't really a news story, but a lot of people don't know that. The Hello Fresh is bringing good energy back into my kitchen is not a news story. What a reporter didn't do a story on HelloFresh. It's HelloFresh is paying for that sponsorship, but that's a way to trick. And then if it is a sponsored story like that, and it is heavily biased, and consumers don't know that it's a paid for story and advertise it basically, then there's more vitriol against the media for creating biased stories when they don't realize a journalist isn't doing it. Or they pay to place their stories on legitimate sites. Bleacher Report, this is how, if you want, I can tell you more sometime about Bleacher Report, but it got its start by paying news organizations like CNN, San Francisco Chronicle, LA Times. The places like the Chronicle and the Times and CNN didn't want to pay to have a huge sports staff, and so Bleacher Report said, fine, we will write the stories. We will give you those stories, and you can put the headlines on your website. But when people click on the headline, they're going to go to Bleacher Report. They're not going to stay on your site. What this did, it was a win-win. It was a win for Bleacher Report because a lot more people went there, and it was a win for all these other news organizations because now their sports section looks so robust. Out of those articles, those 5 sports articles there under letter D, I think 4 of those were Bleacher Report articles, saving CNN a ton of cash and not having to pay for journalists. All of this can make it seem like going into journalism is a fool's errand, that media companies are in the death throes because they can't pay people, or they're gutting their staffs. The Cincinnati Enquirer, for instance, we used to have 3 news bureaus around Cincinnati, greater Cincinnati, and the newsroom was just full of journalists. And now all those news bureaus are closed. The newsroom is a ghost town pretty much, and so it seems pretty ominous, but it's really not the case. It's a great time to consider a career in journalism, or even if you don't want to go into journalism, to take these journalism classes because you can take this right into marketing, right into PR, communications, and a lot of journalism organizations are hiring, and they're hiring not dinosaurs like me. They want you because you can do more than just write. You do understand social media and SEOs and all those things that I don't. And so you have a ton of options for careers. It really is a great time right now to go into this field or a journalism related field. All right, we're going to move along here. Chapter 2, quick historical lesson. This is going to go super fast. Number 9, when I was growing up, we only had three news stations on TV. Really, and they were called the Big Three. It was CBS, ABC, and NBC. That's where we got our news. From 6 o'clock to 6:30 at night, it was your local station, and then from at 6:30 you went to the national news. For me, ABC was Peter Jennings. CBS when I was growing up was Dan Rather, and NBC when I was growing up was Tom Brokaw. You look at a couple of the folks there. Number nine, John Chancellor actually was the first person I remember back when I was about 7 or 8 on NBC, and David Brinkley was on ABC. So you click on the link there, number nine, just so you can take a look of what they look like. If you notice a trend with those two, they're white, they're men. There were no women anchors on ABC, CBS, or NBC up until I think Katie Couric was the first one, and she was on CBS, and that didn't happen until maybe about 10 years ago. Of course, no non-white people. You didn't see Hispanics or African Americans on there. These were white men all the way through until recently. Then number 10 is a name on your supplement I hope you know, and that's Walter Cronkite. I at least want you to get a look at him. He's the most famous of them all. We called him, or my parents called him Uncle Walt, because he was like a member of the family. Talk about trust. People trusted what he had to say. He went to Vietnam for a little while. This is back in the early 70s to see how things were going. Was the government telling us the truth about Vietnam, and were we winning that war? And when he came back, he decided that the war was lost, that there was no way we were going to win this thing. And he said that on the air. He gave his opinion about the war. Just watch just a snippet. I just want you don't have to watch this whole thing, but I just want you to hear him, his cadence, and just to get a sense of him. So pause me and just listen a little bit. The president at the time was Lyndon Johnson, and he watched this broadcast in the White House. And after Cronkite said this, Johnson turned off the TV and said, "If I've lost Cronkite, I've lost middle America." And so a few weeks later, Lyndon Johnson decided not to run for re-election for president of the United States. I want you to think about that. A journalist said something on the air, and the president decided not to run for president because of what a journalist's opinion was. Imagine Barack Obama watching Sean Hannity and saying, well, Sean Hannity doesn't think so, then you know what, I'm just not going to run for president. Or Trump watching Rachel Maddow one night and saying, Rachel made a good point there. You know what, I'm not going to run in 2020. I'm done after this. Yeah, we live in different times. Of course, now we have thousands of options for news online from professionals and non-professionals, on online, TV, radio, social media. Whom do you trust, especially when everyone seems to be able to refute the other side? And of course, now news is 24 hours. It's not just for that little hour window from 6 to 7 p.m. at night. And so the same incident is broadcast over and over. You've got the incident shown for 2 minutes, and then it's talking about it for the next 23 hours.